So many people love and trust my dad, and that's why the DML News app is one of the top downloaded apps. I hear from people all the time how they rely on the DML News app for so many things, and it is truly unique. For starters, the DML News app provides a non-stop flow of news articles that we aggregate from the top outlets, and then our team of writers insert extra content in the form of tweets, videos, and commentary all in one place. Next, the app provides the free version of the Dennis Michael Lynch podcast every day. We send an app alert when a new podcast is posted. On tab 3, you can watch all of my dad's films for free, including all of his highly acclaimed immigration documentaries, and our new series called America the Beautiful. And then there's my favorite tab, the Deals tab. It offers all the specials being offered at DML CBD, plus other DML merchandise like hats, bumper stickers, and new items that my family adds to our growing list of DML products. Finally, there's tab 5, which gives you access to the Team DML membership site. Tab 5 also provides important links to DML social media and customer support. You can get the DML News app for free at the Google Play Store for Androids and the Apple App Store for iPhones and iPads. Be sure to keep your notifications on so that you never miss important alerts. The DML News app, get it for breaking news, merchandise, films, exclusive content, and Team DML.
Today on the Dennis Michael Lynch podcast, we're going to talk to a gentleman who wants to run for the presidency of these United States as an independent. So get ready, because it's all unfiltered.
Dennis Michael Lynch gives you his word, and he will never let you down. He will always fight for America.
The only one who really puts his money where his mouth is Dennis Michael Lynch.
Hello, I'm Dennis Michael Lynch, and I thank you for joining me today. I'm sure something happened in history on May 19, but I don't have anybody here to tell me who it was. All the kids, they all have off today. Actually, it's not off. They're working at the CBD warehouse because we've got a lot of stuff going on. In fact, we're well, you don't need to know this stuff. We are coming to you here for the last Friday that we will be with you on a Friday until Labor Day. So what we do is Memorial Day weekend, which is next weekend, all the way through Labor Day. What we do is we take Fridays off from doing podcasts. We don't take them off from work. What we do is we take the summer to revamp everything that needs to be revamped, to fix things that are broken, and to enhance things that are going really well. So our effort for the next 3.5, 4 months is going to be enriching the DML News app experience and to improve and to really blow up in a good way the Team DML membership. And we're also adding some new products to DML CBD on top of that. So we use that Friday because doing the show every day and doing the walk and talk and doing the app, it takes up so much time. We never have time to build. And because we're a family-based business, there's only so many of us, right? So we use this opportunity, these Fridays, to sort of get ahead, rebuild, and go about it. So starting next Friday, there will not be a DML podcast. Periodically, there will definitely be a walk and talk. So let me just go through this quick before I bring on my guest. Number one, if you are listening to us on Spotify, iHeart, Apple Podcasts, or any of those podcast platforms, on Fridays, you'll have nothing new, but we will be playing the best of DML on Fridays. That's a given. So if you just listen to the podcast, we're going to be taking stuff that we've done throughout the years, this year, whatever, and doing the best of, trying to make it sort of fresh. Like a lot of it will probably be interviews, things that still apply today, even though we may have done it like 8 months ago. So that will happen. There will not be a video version of that. It will only be the audio version of that every Friday, starting next week. All right. The walk and talk on most days, Monday to Friday, I do it every morning when I'm out for my walk, unless I have an appointment. That said, I get a lot of emails. I get a lot of people who message me one way or another. And I'm thankful for that. I'm very thankful for that. Periodically, I get an email that kind of jumps out. And I get an email from a guy named Dan. Seems like a normal, average, everyday guy. Writes to me that he listens to the show. He appreciates the show. And that he's going to run for president. He's going to run as an independent. Gives me a link to his website. Now, as a guy who actually considered that myself, Back in the days when I was on Fox News all the time, doing a lot of one-on-ones with Megyn Kelly, my profile was very high. People were sending me messages, you need to run for president. And at some point, you start to believe that you should, because everybody's telling you that you walk on water and you would change everything and what have you. So I went on what was called an exploratory sort of mission. I traveled to, I think it was 20-something different states. No, 20-something different cities. I'm sorry, 20-something different cities. And I told my wife, if I go to these cities and people show up, and the rule was I had at least 100 people come in every single time I was there. If I showed up and people showed up and they really gave me enthusiasm, and I'm not talking about people who are lunatics, I'm talking about solid human beings, said, you know what? We need somebody like you. We need somebody who's just, a regular American citizen. We need somebody like you. If I start getting that, then I'm going to pay real attention. And then I told her, if I go to Texas, because I knew certain states you're going to get more people, right? So if I go up to New Hampshire is sort of a sleepy state where you don't get big cities and you don't really get huge turnouts. So if you get 100 people, it's like, holy cow, expect 50. If you get less than 50, they're not interested in you. So, you go to New Hampshire, all right, you're going to get 50 to 100 people, whatever it may be. You go to Texas, if I only get 100 people when I go to Texas, I'm in trouble. So Florida, Texas, Arizona, California, Illinois, these were states where historically I was always getting a lot of traction. People always buying my DVDs. We just tracked where we got people from. New York, my own hometown, in New York. So I said to my wife, I said, if I go to Texas and they tell me that they would rather have me than Ted Cruz and Jeb Bush. And the reason why I put Jeb Bush in there is because President Bush was from Texas. Jeb Bush, obviously from Florida, governor of Florida, but he's a Bush. So I figured Texas would love the Bushes, right? So if they come up and say, I'd rather have you than Ted Cruz and I'd rather have you than Jeb Bush, and Trump wasn't around at this point, or wasn't even being talked about at this point, I said, then I'm probably going to do this. Well, I go to Arlington. It was Arlington. Yep. And we're in Arlington. And I probably had, got to say, there was about, my recollection would say 300 to 400 people. Okay. I get up there. I got to tell you, I gave one of the best speeches of my life. And not only was it solid on policy, it was solid on patriotism, and it was chock full of laughs as well. So I was educating, entertaining, and patriotic, wrapped up in a bow. And I had almost every single last person in that room tell me that they would support me over Ted Cruz. And when I said Jeb Bush, they just laughed. And that's when I went home to my wife. I said, I think we really have something here. I think we really have something. And then I went to Arizona and I announced that I was actually taking the exploratory event to an actual exploratory committee, meaning I was going to start to have volunteers and we were really going to start going out and saying, we're running, like we're going to run versus I'm thinking of running. And when I did that, they had me on Fox News. Megyn Kelly had me on Fox News. And in fact, I'll play it for you here. I'm going to play for you my segment on Fox News with Megyn Kelly. She had me on. We were only on for a couple minutes. I'm going to play it now. Take a listen.
May I introduce you to whom I think would be the next president of the United States, Dennis Michael Lynch.
How about that? And joining me now, the man in the video, Dennis Michael Lynch, entrepreneur and documentary filmmaker and candidate for president of the United States, sir.
Megyn, how did we arrive here?
You tell me.
You know what, I announced that I'm exploring the idea, and I would tell you, unless something significantly changes, which I don't expect will, I will announce in the future that I am going to run for the presidency. And the reason why I'm doing that, Megyn, is because I'm absolutely in love with my country. I'm in love with the American people. I want to protect them like I would protect my children, like I would protect your children, in the sense that somebody has to step up and get this country back on track to protect Americans, their jobs, their lives, their health. And if a guy like me, or specifically me, were in place right now, we wouldn't have an Ebola scare here on our shores. We wouldn't have an ISIS scare. I would have been in front of those problems. In almost every report I've ever done with you, you've always ended with, you said this was going to happen. Well, it's not because I have some magic medicine or I have some magic information coming into me. It's because I understand how to forecast the problems and stop them before they come in. So I have very bold solutions, very conservative, tight solutions for this country to get back on track.
How are you going to do it without any infrastructure or, party money behind you?
The same question was asked to that Virginia professor. How are you going to beat Eric Cantor when you only have $250,000 and he has $5.5 million? And the way it can be done is through my messaging. I have a very powerful message, and people are really, look, you saw the reaction in that video, Megan. I don't talk the talk, I walk the walk. There aren't people, I'm more experienced in the places that we need experience than any other person's ever mentioned on the GOP side. I've hired more people, I've created more jobs than Rand Paul, Ted Cruz, and Mr. Carson put together. And you answer me this question: who in the country can secure those borders and protect from the illegal immigration problem that we have than me? There's nobody. And in the same way that Ronald Reagan promised to bring home the hostages, I promised to secure those borders.
Dennis Michael Lynch,
I'll get it done.
I can't wait to get you on
Megan,
the stage in a presidential debate. Thank you, sir.
I can't wait to be back in your studio. I wish we were in front of each other. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
You bet. We'll be right back.
After that ran, somebody over at Fox News on the Kelly File put up a poll on Facebook on Megyn Kelly's page. And it asked, would you vote for Dennis Michael Lynch if he were to indeed run for president? And I wound up getting 86% of the people said that they would vote for me. 86%. I mean, they came back to Kelly File and said, wow, we were hoping you were going to get 55 to 60, 86%. Well, long story short, I ultimately didn't do it. My children were too young. I was getting all kinds of crazy crap from the GOP. They were starting to tarnish my name. The Democrats weren't even doing to it. I was getting hit by the GOP. I remember Lindsey Graham was interviewed about me when we were in New Hampshire. There was a big, huge event at New Hampshire. 19 speakers, all of which were thinking about running for president, including me. I got up there. I had people coming up to me and say, I had a check that I was going to give to Marco Rubio. I had a check I was going to get to Ted Cruz. I had a check I was going to give to Donald Trump. I'm giving it to you. I mean, we weren't even asking for money. People were just coming up and giving it to us. But ultimately, I knew that I would never have the opportunity to really run because the GOP was going to do everything they possibly could to keep me back. And I think it's because they thought I was very dangerous and very electable, as egotistical as that sounds. So when I heard that Trump was running and I saw what he was starting to talk about, I said, you know what? We're really saying the same thing. I'm going to go back to my kids. I'm going to go back to my family. I'm going to spare myself. Thank God, the crap that man went through. I learned so much from that time. I learned about what not to do, what not to do, and when, what to do, and with whom, and with who you stay away from. The amount that I learned in that time frame was, you can't go to school for 20 years and get that. So if I ever wanted to run again, I would know exactly what to do and what not to do. And in fact, if I wanted to run again, I would realize the fact that, as nice as it sounds that you want to run for president, you want to go from zero to hero with no other experience under your cap like this Vivek Ramaswamy, you're out of your mind. It's just not going to happen. There was only one guy in the whole world who could do that, and that was Donald J. Trump, because he had the greatest name recognition. He had talked about running for president for years. He had written books about it. And basically, at that point in his career, he could sneeze and he got a headline, So I know what has to be done. And if I were ever run again, I would run for Congress first. I would get to Congress. I would make sure that I was electable. I would learn everything that I had to learn about running, like getting to the next level, raising money and everything else like that. These are things that are really serious, that take a lot of people and a lot of effort. So I would do it on a congressional level first, and then who knows, maybe governor, and then one day president. I just don't think I'm going to have enough time in my lifetime, because right now I still have a 14-year-old who I wouldn't even consider doing something until she was out of high school. I wouldn't do that to her. And then by the time that happens, man, I'll be, 54 this summer? I'll be 57. I just wouldn't be, I believe that by 70 years old, it's a young man's game. There's a certain level of get the young blood in there. So who knows? Maybe one day I'll run for Congress. I have no idea. As of right now, if you asked me, I'd tell you it's probably 50-50, and I would lean towards the probably not, just because of how dirty and ugly things got. And that's why I'm bringing on my next guest. So I get this email from this guy named Dan saying he's going to run for president as an independent. So I read it, and I said, you know what? Let me bring this guy on. I'm going to bring him on as a guest because you got to give him an A+ for love of country. You got to give him an A for effort. You got to give him just a little punch in the arm and say, go for it, man. Go for it. Go for it. Go for it. Do it. Do it. At the same time as I want to bring this guy on, and I want to prepare him in the lightest format, because I'm his first interview, in the lightest format possible. I want to just give him a little taste of what he's going to be up against. Just a little taste. Not because I want to embarrass him, not because I don't like him. I don't even know him. I mean, he listens to the show. Thank you. I mean, he's a fan. He's a supporter, right? I probably has the app. I want to bring him on because I think it's a shame, because I know how this interview is going to go. I think it's a shame that a good person with good experience has to fight an untenable fight in order to try to help his country. So with that being said, let me bring on right now Dan. So a few questions for you. First of all, what state are you out of?
Florida.
You're out of
By the
Florida.
way, thank you for having me, Dennis. Appreciate it.
Not a problem, Dan. Not a problem at all. I think as I responded back to you in the email, you've got balls of steel, because what you're trying to do right now is sort of paint the Grand Canyon. So
yeah.
So
let me, Dennis?
Go ahead.
We need radical change. We are in deep trouble as a country.
I know that. Believe me.
Yeah, and we cannot go on.
So
I'm going to continue down this path.
I agree. So I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and you'll see where I'm going with it. But first of all, explain to me where you were sitting, what you were doing when you decided that you thought that the best way to help change those radicalizations and the problems that we're facing was for you to run for president as an independent.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I will tell you what made me get into the race. I saw so many things that were happening that were going wrong with our country. And I think the thing that really did it for me was the COVID-19 and the way it was handled, and the vaccines and the lockdowns. And the more I looked into that, it took me down a deep, dark rabbit hole. I learned a lot about our country. They say ignorance is bliss, and I could see why, because I'm no longer ignorant. I've been ignorant for 63 years. I'm not anymore. And the corruption in our country is just beyond the pale. And I started writing a book. I'm an author. I wrote a book called No More Bad Days, an audiobook. Mm-hmm. So I'm writing this book about the vaccines and all the corruption, everything that's wrong with our country. And midway through the book, I said, what am I doing? The last book that I wrote was a self-help book called No More Bad Days. And now I'm writing a book with no good days. Where is the happy ending to this story? And I sincerely stopped dead in my tracks. And I said, well, okay, I believe that for every problem, there is a solution. So I said, let me work this backwards. Let's look at all the problems we're faced with as a nation. And what would I do to fix them? Forget about whether it's a big mountain to climb or a small mountain to climb, has nothing to do with it. Can these problems be fixed? And I started looking at them. I said, well, we're $32 trillion in debt. That is total insanity. And people need to wake up to it because we're so used to these crazy figures being thrown around that we've become oblivious to it. And it doesn't seem to faze anyone. In a sense, kind of why would it? 32 trillion, 34 trillion, 40 trillion, 50 trillion. What difference does it make at this point? I say, well, that's a big one because our country is financially bankrupt. And you saw my platform, I described that if someone has a newborn baby, that baby has more money than the United States government. Because at least the baby's not starting off $32 trillion in debt. If you're driving on the highway and you see a guy with a cardboard sign saying, I'm homeless, please help me. That guy has more money than the United States of America, a country with the largest GDP. How did this happen? And at what point did this clown show that we have as politicians and Congress people, everybody that's been involved with this, the good stewards of our tax dollars, at what point did they say to themselves, well, wait a minute, we have 1 trillion left in the bank. They should have panicked at that point. They brought it down to we have $0, and then they just kept going.
So
and
I get the
from here.
I listen, I'm with you 100%. I think we could probably sit here for 9 hours if we had 9 hours and just go over every single last problem that the United States faces between national debt, which, like you said, is a huge one. It's one that gets overlooked mostly because, you know, it's sort of like terrorism, right? So when you see a building blow up and fall down, everybody jumps, oh my God, terrorism. When you hear about a cyber attack, you don't think of terrorism because you can't see it. So it's almost that same, but meanwhile, it's just as bad. In fact, a cyber attack on this country, a real cyber attack would be much worse than flying airplanes into buildings. But people need the visualization. So when you hear about the trillions of dollars that we're in debt and it's only going up every single day, people don't really see it. They don't really feel it. And, you know, what they're doing is they're passing it off to the next generation. I get it. And if you got kids, then you recognize the fact that you're leaving them with the problem. We could look at the U.S. border. We could look at the healthcare system. We could look at the military, how it's shrinking and you know, it's being demoralized in the sense that nobody wants to join anymore. These are all problems you and I can sit here and discuss. But the biggest thing is why I'm interested is why it is that you think you are the guy who should be elected to fix it.
I've been a business person my whole life. I've written my own paycheck since I was in my early 20s. And it's been a lifetime of me getting involved with businesses that were bankrupt. And I walked in and I said, okay, what can I do to turn it around? And sometimes you don't have to be a genius. You just need some common sense. And my whole life, I've been able to think outside the box, call it a God-given talent, and turn companies around. When I was 25 years old, I went to go work for Billy Joel. He had a limousine company. I was his general manager. He was about $300,000 in debt. In a matter of a few months, I turned the company around and I acquired it from him. I took over a health club that was bankrupt. The previous owner was in debt to the landlord over $100,000. It had no chance of survival. The day I took it over, things got worse. A multi-million-dollar Gold's Gym opened up diagonally down the street. I figured out how to turn it around. I've been turning around companies my whole life, and at the end of the day, it's the United States. It's a big company, and really, it's obvious. Just someone has to have the goal to do it. And I think the last person that attempted to really turn it around in a way that, see, it's just a Ponzi scheme. You know, Henry Ford once said, if people were aware of the banking system in the United States, there'd be a revolution in the streets by tomorrow morning. So, and I don't know, most people don't understand it. And I certainly didn't understand it, so I don't blame them. I have friends of mine that were bankers. And when I started looking into this, saying, I said, okay, well, where does the money come from? And most people, when you ask them that question, They said, well, the government prints it. Now, if the government printed money, we might not have a problem, but we don't. It started off in 1913 when Woodrow Wilson was president, and the United States of America was having financial difficulties.
I want to stop.
So
I want to stop you here for a second because the audience will start to drift. I want to talk about you because what I'm really interested in. I get a lot of emails every single day, Dan. I get a lot of emails. I get people who ask me for money. I get people who ask me for free CBD. I get people who tell me I'm the greatest thing since sliced bread. I get people who tell me I'm a complete asshole. The gamut is large. So I try to read as many as I can. And then once in a while, one will stand out. And so when you say that, you want to run for the presidency of the United States, I mean, I'll tell you right now what went through my head. The first thing that goes through my head is, okay, first of all, is this guy psychotic? If he's not psychotic and, he's legitimate, by God, he's got balls of steel. So, that'd be interesting. You sent me a link. I looked up on your website. I could see you put some time into your website. Okay. I mean, I won't lie to you. I didn't go through it for very long. I kind of just cherry picked. And then the next thing that comes to me is I wonder if this person recognizes what it is that they're actually taking on. So, if it's, first of all, to run as an independent is a very, very difficult thing to do. In fact, going back, if you're familiar with the name Dick Morris is probably one of the biggest gurus there is about how the government works and this and that. And so I know him. He's a friend of mine. And when I was contemplating doing the same thing that you're doing, it was sort of the same thing. I was on Fox News, a businessman, successful businessman, same thing you're talking about, common sense, how you take $1 and you make it into $2 and, not lose money. It's a concept that everybody should understand. And unfortunately, so many people don't, especially the people in Washington, D.C. So when I had said to him, I said, if I ran for president, I don't want to, I'm an independent. I'm not a Republican. I'm certainly not a Democrat. And he said, you'd never stand a chance. You would never stand a chance. And I said, why would I not stand a chance? I said, I see myself between these two. I'd rip them apart on stage. He says, you'll never get on stage. That's your problem. So I started going down I said, well, how would I never? He goes, first of all, you're not going to get on any ballots. He says, just getting on the ballot in California alone, they've changed all the laws since Ross Perot. So he went down all that stuff. And that was very discouraging to me. I said, okay, fine. It's discouraging to me. I get it. Still, things could be done. And he said, there's only one person, I think, in the entire world who would be able to run as an independent and be able to start it on day one. And I said, who's that? He said, Donald Trump. Now, this is before Trump entered the GOP. And I said, well, why do you say that? He says, first of all, he's got incredible name recognition. So the day that he says I'm running for president, they're all going to jump up and listen. And on top of that, he's been talking about running for president. So you get somebody like George Clooney, who also is known worldwide. If he said I'm running for president, the first thing they would think of is it was probably some way of promoting a film or something else of that nature. But Trump has always talked about it. He wrote books about it. So they would take him seriously.
Yeah.
So name recognition. Number two is he can buy himself onto the ballots without ever having to raise $1. He would be able to just buy himself, on every single one of them. And he has the money to do it. And as it turned out to be, although he didn't run as an independent, he ran as a Republican. Look what happened. Exactly what Dick Morris said. The amount of press that he got from saying he was going to be the president and saying all the things like a Muslim ban and everything else, he got the press that you would need $500 million in order to get. He got it for free. So when I look at all those things, I know what you're up against is seriously like saying you're going to ride your bicycle to the moon tomorrow. It's like, how are you going to get there? There's not even a road to get there. But I appreciate the patriotism and the willing to try. So what I would want to hear from you, because maybe you know something I don't, and I want to, I want people to be encouraged by what it is you're doing. I'm not looking to belittle you, believe me. I've been in your spot before. I've been in your spot before. It's also a very expensive endeavor to do. So what would be, give me your next 30-day plan. What are you going to do to where you're going to get A, name recognition, B, the money to do what you need to do, and C, people to take you seriously. And let's assume that every single one of your ideas is perfect.
Okay. First of all, Dick Morris was right. Anytime prior to today. And even when Donald Trump ran for the first time, which is probably why he ran as a Republican, not an independent, because up until that point, you really did not stand a chance. You'd have to pick your side of the political spectrum. An independent did not stand a chance. First of all, for the first time now, there are more independents on a ballot than Republicans or Democrat. People have had it.
I understand.
We've been played for fools by both ends of the political spectrum. And I will tell you, when I tell people I'm running for president, the first question, they look at me and almost with a sense of like leeriness, and they say to me, what party? And I know if I'm speaking to a Republican, I say Democrat, it's over, and vice versa. When I say independent, and when I say that to a Republican or Democrat, it's like this sense of relief, and they're so happy. So it's a different time and place. Now, how am I going to get the word out? How am I going to raise the money? Those are great challenges, and we'll see how it goes. I think it's going to be God will at this point, but I can only do the best I could do. I got to forget about all that, because if I think like that, then I'm thinking like everyone else and saying, you know what, I got a great platform, but I better pick a side, and then I better get the PACs behind me, and then I get the special lobbying groups behind me, and then we're back to the same mess.
I got to disagree. I got to disagree with you there a little bit. Because, you said you bought Billy Joel's failed limousine company. I know Billy Joel. I've been to his home, and I would be the first one to tell you that great musician, bad businessman, right? But when you take that limousine service, you just didn't turn the lights on and wait for things to come. What you did was you had a plan. You said, all right, I'm going to do this better than Billy did and this better than Billy did. And, I got to get new customers. So you had a business plan. I mean, as a business, as an entrepreneur myself, since I'm 18, you got to have a business plan. You don't necessarily have to write it out like some, Wall Street analyst would want it, but you have to have a business plan. You got to have a plan. No plan is a plan to fail. So when you say, I got to get the word out somehow, I got to get money raised somehow, but I'm not going to worry about that. That's just not going to unfold into your lap. So you got to be able to, like, for me, right? So I got a blue check mark next to my name, but I'm not as popular or known, at least not anymore, like Dan Bongino. So I would have to come up with, how am I going to go about saying that I'm going to run for president and be taken legitimately, and at the same time get some buzz? And I got to step ahead of you. So, that's what I'm wondering. Is there a plan in place to where, like, you're going to accelerate this, or is this just one of those things where you're hoping friends and family is just going to wind up spreading the word, and before you know it, everybody knows who you are?
One thing that has changed over the years, and it's podcasts like yours and podcasts like Dan Bongino's and Jordan Peterson, and of course, Joe Rogan, that these guys have a bigger audience than the mainstream and the conservative news outlets.
Yeah, but how are you going to get them to interview you?
One step at a time. Right now, I'm on your show. If somebody sees your show and I make sense, that's the whole thing. I have a plan. I have a plan to save this nation from total economic demise, and I state my plan, and you say, you know what, this guy has a plan. I don't think he'll pull it off. The odds are against him, but it makes sense.
Listen,
and it starts making
the odds are against Ron DeSantis, and he's the governor of Florida. So you shouldn't saying the odds are against you. That's against the odds are against Biden right now. I mean, they're against everybody all the time in this sort of thing. But that's not, I don't want to go down. I didn't mean to pull you in that direction. I want you to stay positive, and I want you to stay upbeat about what you're trying to do. I mean, miracles happen all the time, right? So you don't need a miracle. You just need a plan of how it is that you're going to wind up getting into people's ear and then say what it is that you're looking to do. So let's do this, because unfortunately on my Friday shows, I'm very tight for time. So with that said, let's come up with one thing. First of all, tell everybody what your website is, so this way they can go check it out and see what you're all about.
It's my name, Dan Boronico, BORONICO, 2024.com.
Okay.
That's how you could find me.
Mm-hmm.
And you can read my platform.
Then you could read the platform, see what you stand for, see if they like. So let's do one thing. I'll stretch it. I'm going to take time out of something else, and I'll give it to you. I got 5 minutes. I'm going to give you the floor for 4 of those. Let's just take one topic and see right now what your plan is, how it is that you would solve the problem based on common sense.
Okay, so, I'm going to take what I feel is the biggest part of
I'm going to do it. You don't get to do that. I get to do it, because you don't get to pick the questions when somebody comes out at you, right? So your website is you saying, here you go. So I'm going to take something right now that is a big problem that I talk about all the time. So right now, our southern border is the worst it has ever been, and I've been covering it for 15 years. And over the course of time, there have been a bunch of different things attempted, or at least promised, and they've never come to fruition. Either they've been half done, a little bit done, or not done at all. So right now, we're taking in a level of people that is unsustainable. We did on our show yesterday, we did a whole thing about how small towns on Long Island are declaring emergencies, and the reason being is they're putting people out in grassy fields. They got nowhere to put them. So knowing the fact that the border has been an issue going all the way back to Reagan, what is it that you're going to do different that is going to solve the problem of the open border? And what are you going to do with the people we hear? You got 4 minutes. Go.
You have to get tough, Dennis. You have to get tough. This isn't rocket science. Whether you have fences or you have soldiers or you have German shepherds, you could certainly shore up those borders. You could stop people from coming in. We have an administration right now that's welcoming people in. People are coming here because we got a president that's saying, come, you're welcome. And then they do nothing to stop them from coming. They've done everything to encourage them from coming. So, it's like any other crime that's being committed. You have to get tough. Unless you get tough, the crime will keep committing. You get tough. You throw people in jail. They're committing crimes. They're crossing the border illegally. And we got an administration that pretends that they care about them. They don't care about veterans that are homeless in their own backyard. So, it's not difficult. I think Trump was on his way there.
So when you say it's not difficult to be tough.
No, it's not difficult to be tough. It's like every other crime that's being committed. It's like all the fentanyl that's killing all of our people and all of our children. If you can't seem to stop the cartels from smuggling it in from the border, it's got to go down to the end, to the street dealer at the end, who's going to give that little dose that's going to kill somebody. Take that guy and execute him. Execute him. Publicly execute him. I've got no mercy on these guys. And you see how fast it stops.
So Dan,
but regardless of what the crime is that is being committed, unless you have severe penalties, it'll continue to be committed. So whatever the crime is, you got to get tough.
So let me ask you this. I mean, I got 1 more minute because you only took 3 minutes on that. So you got some. Why not just start on a local level? Why not try running for, state assembly or Congress here in Florida, as a state congressman? Why not start at that level and try to build your way up? Why go for the big enchilada all at once?
I've got no interest in climbing a broken ladder to a political hierarchy. These problems have to be fixed from the top down. I don't want to become part of a system that I have no respect for. It has to be fixed from the top down. Very easy. With $32 trillion in debt, we allow private bankers to make imaginary money. Kennedy was putting a stop to that. Make our own money, and we're no longer in debt. It's very simple. You know, these are big problems because nobody's offering solutions. Have a little common sense.
All right, Dan. Well, I'll tell you what, as you know, I told you, you've got, I'm sure you realize this, you're a businessman, when you got something broken, it's not all that easy and simple to fix it. But if you've got the will and the know-how and the determination, often you can. Obviously, as a successful businessman, you've been through that before. I wish you all the luck in the world. I appreciate you reaching out to me, hoping that people will go to your website and take a look at what it is you're standing for. And I hope that you wind up, I hope I get to watch up seeing you on television and say, hey, I was that guy's first interview. So I appreciate your time in a big way, Dan. And I wish you all the luck in the world. And like I said, you got balls of steel.
Thank you, Dennis. I appreciate you.
All right, pal. Good luck. So I'm going to be dead honest with you. I think Dan's got a lot of work to do. A lot of work to do. You can build businesses. You could build lots of businesses. We have a country filled with 1 million entrepreneurs, and all the successful ones out there can probably tell you great stories about how they took something from nothing and made it into something great. I get it. Look what Donald Trump did. At the same time as we have built such a system in this country to where a normal, average, everyday guy with a success story to tell is up against, like I said, painting the Grand Canyon. And because the system is absolutely broken, the system is completely tilted in the direction of the rich and famous. It is tilted in the way of corruption, and a simple everyday guy with a success story just isn't enough anymore. You just can't have passion and a success story. You got to have an ironclad plan. And that plan has got to be, I talked to him, you heard me say to him, well, come on, about a business plan, Anybody can make a plan about how things are great, right? I mean, give me. Okay. DML CBD, go to dmlcbd.com. This Miracle Me here will change everything for you. Everything for you. The inflammation will go down. You will be able to get rid of sunburns, bug bites. You're going to email me back and tell me, like the last lady who just emailed me, that, oh my God, I never thought I'd be able to play tennis again. I'm playing tennis. I'm scoring better than I ever did. I put it on every single day. Okay. I could start off making a plan that says, I'm going to create this product and I'm going to sell 1 million bottles. Okay. What about when there aren't 1 million bottles to bottle up your product? What happens when there's a bottle shortage? What happens when your labels come out wrong? What happens if your label doesn't match what it is that your label has to match? What happens if your product doesn't work as well as you think it's going to? You see what I'm talking about? So when you make a plan, a business plan, you got to have a plan for when crap hits the fan. Dan doesn't have that. What Dan has right now is a lot of passion, a lot of love of country, probably a couple of good ideas about some of the things that need to be fixed. But even the way you saw he answered me on immigration, tough. Yeah, there's got to be a tough spine, but tough isn't a plan. Tough is a way to apply a plan. So that's the thing. You want to run for office? Let me give you what it is you need to do. I can tell you right now, and this is my Friday show to you. The first thing you need to do is you got to take a look at the impact it's going to have on your family. That's number one. Is my family going to be able to weather what they're going to do to me? Because they're going to try to destroy you. They're going to make stories up against you that about you that aren't true. I went through this. I didn't go through it at the level Trump did, but I had people making up stories about me. Once I started getting some traction, they were putting me in places that I never was. I had one guy tell a story. It's unbelievable. I had one guy tell a story that I didn't show up to a film festival where he had my film being debuted, and that I went and played golf. That was it. I went and played golf instead of going to my film and that I left all these people. Who is this guy? I wasn't even in the state of North Carolina. So they'll do anything. People will do anything to try to run off your popularity. In fact, just yesterday, we had, in fact, if anybody ever gets this, there's an account on Instagram called Private Dennis Michael Lynch. And this person is going and inviting people to become, to go in. That's not me. First of all, I wouldn't spend my time asking you to come be a part of my Instagram page. All right. But this is what people do. They try to take advantage. They try to take advantage of your name or any popularity, and they try to run off it. So, you'll have people tell lies about you. I've had people tell lies about me when I was thinking about running for office. They'll try to take a marriage. I've been with my wife since the first day in ninth grade. Okay. They'll try to make stories they'll try to destroy you and your wife. They'll try to destroy your kids. They'll take pictures of your kids. They'll put them all out all over the place. It is horrifying. So the number one thing you should do if you're really serious about running for office, and I mean really serious, first thing you should do is you should hire somebody who does opposition research and say to that person, hey, here's $1,000. Here's $2,000. Go out and pretend as if, in my case, you're a Democrat and you want to get all the dirt on me possible. Go out and come back and tell me what you're going to find on me, and have those people go out and do opposition research. And when it comes back, you're gonna see things that you never did. You're gonna see things that you did and you forgot. I mean, it's the best thing you can do, because when you get that will be and I didn't do that. I didn't do that. I was told that by a friend afterwards. Go out and see what it is they're going to try to say. On somebody like me, they're going to try to paint me as a racist, because all my shows talk about illegal immigration. I talk a lot about the Black community and how broken it is. I talk about these things because I want to fix it. I don't talk about these things because I can't stand Black people. I don't do it because I can't stand Latinos, but that's what they spin. So they'll go through every show I've ever done. They'll go through every post I've ever made, and they're going to look for that little tiny thing to where they could spin it and try to make me sound like I'm an unhinged, radicalized, KKK guy. That's what they're going to do to you. So that's the first thing you got to do. And if you think that you and your family can survive that and want to endure it, you want to go to the next level, because that's the first thing you do, then sit down your family and tell them, this is what they're going to come back with. Boom, 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 boom. Do you still want to be my family member when it's all said and done? And if you're going to keep your family, then go to the next level. But if you're going to lose somebody you love, let it go. Then you got to figure out how much money you're going to need. And remember, if you're a working person, if you're working because you need money to pay the bills, well, you better get ready, because going out and raising money is a job on its own. And you have to have somebody who's going to be willing to take that money. That you need a treasurer who's going to be honest. You can never even buy yourself a cheeseburger with that money. You cannot. You'd have to have separate credit cards, and you never want to touch the money that's being raised, ever. So these things right here, that's just the start. That's just the start of what has to happen. So I'm not going to go through the whole thing. I'm just giving you the start. So I don't think Dan's done those things. He's going to want to do those things. And then when he's done doing those things, then the next thing you have to figure out is, how do I get on the ballot? Now, in his case, he's not just trying to get on the ballot. I don't know where he lives. Just say it's Miami. If he's in Miami and he's running for mayor, there's going to be a certain number of names that he has to get on a ballot. Even if you're running for school board, you got to get a certain number of names on a ballot that says that they support the fact that you're going to run. And then those names have to be certified. So if the number of names you have to get is 1,000 to 2,000, you better get 4,000, because they're going to toss out half the names and tell you they're fictitious. He's talking about he has to do it in 50 states to get on the ballot. So obviously it's not going to happen. But that's what it is that you have to do. How many names do I have to get on the ballot? Okay. So if it's 2,000, how am I going to get 2,000 names? Now, I had a friend who was running down in Florida for school board. And what she did is I don't know how many names she had to get. It was minuscule. I don't know, let's say 500. So what she did was she took a table and put it outside her church. And that's how she got the majority of her names. And then she also went around to neighbors, knocked on doors, said, hey, how you doing? This is my name and this is what I'm doing, whatever it may be. And she got the name. She went overboard. But you're going to need to have an incredible amount of names that people are going to wind up supporting you. And then I go back. If you're working full time, you're going to need a lot of money. So you better make sure you have enough money saved in the bank to where you can pay your bills and you can start, because you're going to have to lay out money for mailers and everything else. And, you'll be able to get that money back if you wind up running, and then you could pay yourself back from the money you raise from donations. But we have made it. This is the point of why I brought this guy on. We have made it so difficult for the average everyday person who would probably be filled with common sense, filled with passion and love of country. We have made it so difficult for them to participate in the political structure that is destroying our country. And so I'll end on this. Boy, do I pray for Dan in a big way. I hope he knows what he's getting himself into. If he doesn't, he's going to learn pretty soon, because my interview with him was really easy. So, and that's if he gets interviews. That's the other thing too. People got to be able to take you seriously. So anyway, good luck to Dan. I hope he does it. If you're thinking about running for office, you should probably listen to this a second time. That said, that's it for me. Listen, enjoy your weekend. We're going to see you on the other side of it, God willing. Do not forget dmlcbd.com/miracle. Stuff really is a miracle. Okay. And all those things I worry about, we got plenty of glass bottles. You go there, you get this bottle, you will thank me up and down 50 times over. And then what happens is that you will get a free membership to teamdml.com. And as I told you in the beginning, the only way to watch this full show and to get all those other benefits is to be a team member. And if you want at least nothing else, just download the app for free, the DML app from the Google Play Store, the Apple App Store. But if you buy this, if you've got aches and pains, the back's hurting, the neck's hurting, you got tech neck, your shoulders, your arms, you want to get back into the exercising, your legs get tight, all the other, I'm telling you, you rub this on, you keep on applying it on every single day, you're going to thank me. It is a life changer for so many people. So dmlcbd.com/miracle. You get it. My daughter Ashley's going to set you up with a one year free membership to DML, Team DML, and we're good to go. And trust me when I tell you, you'll be buying this for the rest of your life. And team membership gets you 30% off every time you do. So it's it's almost, we're paying you to become members. So give that a try. Okay. So until the next time, may God bless you, your family, our troops, our first responders, the Border Patrol, these United States, and Mr. Dan. May he be successful in his thirst and quest for the U.S. presidency. We'll talk to you soon.
So many people love and trust my dad, and that's why the DML News app is one of the top downloaded apps. I hear from people all the time how they rely on the DML News app for so many things, and it is truly unique. For starters, the DML News app provides a non-stop flow of news articles that we aggregate from the top outlets, and then our team of writers insert extra content in the form of tweets, videos, and commentary all in one place. Next, the app provides the free version of the Dennis Michael Lynch podcast every day. We send an app alert when a new podcast is posted. On tab 3, you can watch all of my dad's films for free, including all of his highly acclaimed immigration documentaries, and our new series called America the Beautiful. And then there's my favorite tab, the Deals tab. It offers all the specials being offered at DML CBD, plus other DML merchandise like hats, bumper stickers, and new items that my family adds to our growing list of DML products. Finally, there is tab 5, which gives you access to the Team DML membership site. Tab 5 also provides important links to DML social media and customer support. You can get the DML News app for free at the Google Play Store for Androids and the Apple App Store for iPhones and iPads. Be sure to keep your notifications on so that you never miss important alerts. The DML News app, get it for breaking news, merchandise, films, exclusive content, and team